lunaku tubeera namwe ku Monday, Tuesday, Thursday ne Friday nga twogera ku nsonga ezitwala mu maaso eggwanga. Olunaku lwaleero tulina discussion ya EALA, tugenda kuba nga twogera ku nsonga za East African Parliament. Eggwanga liri mu kwetegeka kwa by-election ababaka babiri aba NRM, that is Dennis Namara ne James Kakoza bayingidde Parliament eya 12 egenda okusoya mu May, and ebifo ebyo bifuuse vacant. Twalina election ya EALA mu 2022, that means bakyaservinga term yaabwe paka 2027, so bakyabulayo emyaka ebiri, but they resigned mu Parliament ya East Africa okujja okwesimbawo mu general elections ne bawangula. So that kiba kitegeeza tulina slots 2 eziri mu East African Parliament ezitalinayo babaka. Lunaku lwaleero tugenda kutunuulira East African Parliament etuyamba ki, babaka bano bakola ki, bagata ki ku ggwanga, ebintu bye bateesa bitugasa, biteeso ki bye batwala mu Parliament ya East Africa. At Parliament ya East Africa eno ebadde n'omugaso mu myaka gyonna gye ebaddewo. So ensonga zino nga buli Monday tubeera ne Honorable Margaret. Leero tulina special guest, musajja yali former EALA candidate, musajja alina ebibiina byabaddemu sijja byogerako, alina profile eri very rich, ali principal researcher analyst from Parliament, musomesa mu public management, profile nene. Dr. Joseph tugenda kubeera naye nga tutanya ku nsonga zino. Naye Doctor.
Yes, sir.
We are happy to have you today.
I'm also very happy to be with you, and thank you, Mr. Calvin, for the invite, and also my colleague here, the Honorable. And to the viewers over there, it's my pleasure to be with you. My name is Dr. Joseph Tindieba, and you've already introduced me. Indeed, I was a former EALA candidate, 2022, which was based on an inspiration of being a representative in the East Africa Legislative Assembly, basing on the agenda that I had. And I've not dropped away the agenda, but I can always support the vision of the East African community, especially for the EALA. And I'm a lecturer at Kampala International University, so it's my pleasure to be with you.
Okay. Honorable Margaret, who's up?
Asinababuuza nina essanyu lingi erya wiiki eno, kubanga eno wiiki yanjawulo, wiiki eyaffe abagoberezi ba Kristo ffenna. This is the week that makes us. This is the week yetugamba nti Christ, abagoberezi ba Kristo yanjawulo. Naye mbadde nsaba njogereko obuntu bubiri about the same, then tugende mu maaso mu topic. Kasooka waliwo engombo yaffe nga bw'onoogamba Merry Christmas, Eid Mubarak, naye Easter ina engombo, naye oba yatulema okuadoptinga bagita nti ogamba nti Christ is risen indeed. It is like that. Nja kubuuza presiding apostle ambuulire, naye tulina engombo, badde nsaba tugizeemu tujanjabaze Yesu Kristo waffe. Ekirala nyanguya kusonyiwa is key in this season. Okusonyiwa kuyamba gwe, tekuyamba oli gw'osonyiwa, kuyamba gwe. Tuyiga okusonyiwa. Mandela bwe yali ava mu kkomera yagamba nti bwe yali afuluma mu gate y'ekkomera yagamba nti namanya nti bwe naagenda ne bitterness ne hatred sijja kola ki, sijja kuba free, naye bwe naabireka eno then I will just be free. Ekirala ekigambo ky'okusonyiwa mpuliddeko generation eno ng'egamba nti I can't forgive you, I will never forgive you. Ekyo kikyamu, who are you? Kubanga Yesu Mukama waffe bwe yali ku musalaba, bwe yali afiira nga bamufumita emisumaali, bwe yafiira bamuŋoola, bwe yali afiira bamwanulira musajja, kyonga yagamba nti forgive them for they don't know what to do. Tuyiga okusonyiwa mu budde buno obwaffe, tuyiga okusonyiwa. I'm not saying kusonyiwa kwangu, kusonyiwa kuzibu, saba Katonda akuyambe, kubanga ebintu byonna Katonda byatugamba tukole biba biyamba ffe. So kusonyiwa is key. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and those who always watch me and listen to me What would I do without you? Love you guys.
Kati olunaku lwaleero discussion eri ku East African Legislative Assembly. Tugenda kutandika ne Doctor. Now, Doctor, the positions that are vacant in the Legislative Assembly are NRM slots. Predominantly, we send 9 members of Parliament in the EALA Parliament. 7 of them are chosen by the NRM party, and 2 are meant to be opposition slots. But in the last race, we had 1 independent and 1 from the Democratic Party. So
there's something which the viewers, and as you know, you bring me in this talk show, they need to know. It is no longer the issue of proportionality, either saying that NRM must get 6. But what always prays in their favor is that because they are the majority here at the Parliament of Uganda, that they are able to say, okay, let's have the 6 members of Parliament. The information I share to the public, it is drawn from since 2012, when there was a petition. By then time, the petitioner was the current speaker, Right Honorable Anita Monge, who was able to seek for the fair presentation that could align with the East Africa Community Treaty, the EAC Treaty, that was categorizing on the representation based on the different political shades. And the political shades, it was realized that even independent is a political shade.
yes.
However, the ESC, it must again be respectful of the National Assembly Constitution, of which the rules of procedure plays a key role. In our case, the parliamentary rules of procedure, which determine the elections of such persons. There seems to be inconsistency in terms of compliance to the ESC, ensuring that the representation which should be able to focus on, number one, I've talked about the political shades. The political shades, not only political parties, it can also include the independents. And also interest groups. Interest groups, in our interpretation, in our national constitution, it is supposed to be considering the youth, people with disabilities, and also the workers. The workers these days in our parliament, in our constitution, it is an interest group. So there is a lot desirable to be done in our rules of procedure. One time I thought such an interpretation when we were in the election 2022, because by that time I believed, much as I entered into the race as an independent, but I looked at how can we have the interest of workers being represented. And in the main pillars or agenda of the East Africa Legislative Assembly, East African Community, there is where it has an emphasis on the mobility of people, especially for when we talk about the free trade and again free movement of labor.
Yes.
And if you talk about the free movement of labor and you don't specifically look at the representation that will cater for this labor, that's the workers, and possibly also understanding our population, you say this person, let it have one who will represent the youth. So it lands us now to what you brought on table that is already ongoing, these dynamics in the parliament. And our rules of procedure, which now is saying, okay, let these members of parliament who were elected, and if they are elected according to the ESC treaty, you cannot be a member of the ESC, I mean EALA, which is the East Africa Legislative Assembly, and the rules or the very treaty does not allow one to die as a member of parliament in the EALA, and again you be a member of parliament in the very National Assembly. It's a conflict of interest and it's not allowed. Okay. So, and again, you cannot be a member of parliament 2 terms.
So, Doctor, we are looking at dynamics that determine who goes to the EALA parliament. And we want to, you're shaping a conversation of political parties and special interest groups as a representation, as a what can I call it, as a measurement of who we need to send.
Yes, please.
Now, when we look at our politics as a country, we have majored in political party politics. We have majored more in politics that is aligned to ideologies of political parties rather than rules and procedures of different organizations. So when we are getting into the discussion of East African Assembly, do you believe that the representation we send to the East African Legislative Assembly is the representation that is needed to handle issues of Uganda in the Legislative Assembly?
It is not a fair representation. I say this without fear or for favor. But if we were to be nationalistic and even to speak in the context of what the NRM say Pan-Africanism, we are supposed to be having a holistic representation which should consider the major political shades that is in the country and also look at the interest of the people. Because East Africa community is not supposed to be for the middle class elites, the politician. It is supposed to be for the people. And you know that we have a representation which is dealing with workers. When we deal with workers, what does it mean? That these workers, they need, for instance, the wage bill, which is not yet agreeable here in our country.
Yes.
So that by the time when you are talking about the workers, not only those who earn through formal employment, there are those who are doing their farming, there are those who are doing the agriculture. Like how we are looking at the economic growth basically is supposed to be based on the investment. The key investment in the East African region, it cannot go without agriculture. So are we having specific representation which is catering for the interest and the categories of the people? It is a long conversation I cannot handle tonight because it includes in amendment in the rules of procedure, and of which is still a date on the NRM or either table. One time we do wish well the Right Honorable Speaker Anita Mongi, if she becomes again the Speaker of the 12th Parliament, we need to have a representation that does not conflict with other people's consideration of other parliaments like Kenya and others, which has set a standard that brings inclusive representation and which also is very much applicable to their country constitution and again to East Africa.
Honorable Margaret, tunuulira ensonga za East African Parliament, we see, I think I'm forgetting the name, but the daughter to the former Prime Minister of Kenya is in the East African Legislative Assembly, and she's a youth, as a representative of the youth, and she has done well. I don't want to speak on behalf of the Kenyans, but when you look at Uganda itself, have we lagged behind when it comes to getting into or getting on board when it comes to issues of East African Assembly?
East African Assembly, first of all, nengere je tuteekayo njogera Oluganda kakwana nzendumanyi. Engere je tuteekayo representative nzibu nnyo lwa nsonga, it's controversial. Kubanga ba parliament balina okukola ki okulonda aba representatives. Kati bana Uganda tuli so much disconnected. Ojja kusanga nti na EALA abantu abana Uganda omuntu wa wansi kizibu kimuyingizaamu n'akitegeera. Ate ekirala ekya gundi eyo representation eyo Uganda nga bw'obadde ogamba political parties ezikola. Political parties kati NRM yeina abantu abangi majority mu parliament such that nti tekijja kuba objective omuntu kutsindika ki mu parliament lwa nsonga aba NRM batwalayo abaabwe. Kati ffe aba opposition we are not represented, tetusobola kugenda mu East African Committee, tetusobola kubanga bali be bakola ki be balonda. Kakati abagenda yaba ali ku opposition bali bano ba wa DP aba DP abagondi just because by a memorandum of what of understanding. In other words, we are left out. We as opposition, we are left out. Nabana Uganda tetuli so much attached to the UN.
Do you believe in the forum and the procedure of selecting candidates and selecting and electing the representatives of Uganda to the East African Legislative Assembly needs to change if we want to see a better representation of what we desire from the Legislative Assembly?
If you have to get Uganda's choice, it has to change. Not political party's choice or the ruling party's choice.
Doctor, when we look at the Legislative Assembly, when we take the discussion a little bit far from the by-elections that are happening now, when we make the discussion broader, qualifications, you have talked about the special interest groups. That is supposed to be at the back of the mind of the appointing authority.
According to the treaty, that's what
Yes.
they treated,
Yes.
that guides.
So at the back of the mind of the president, for example, it must be there when you are, let's say NRM is nominating the 6 people they are sending to parliament so that they can vote, or to the caucus of NRM to decide, because they have the biggest number, at the back of the mind they should be the East African Treaty. Now, when we leave the other 3 slots, now it's a 2 for opposition and 1 for the independent. Is there going to be a fair representation and taking in the East African Treaty the same way at all spheres if we are going to move forward with the East African Legislative Assembly?
So you see, what used to happen before, we go as far as 2006, Michael Jeddah, when they used to do what? When they used to consider the numerical strength of political parties. And that numerical strength was measured by the representation in parliament. Political party, if this one is the ecological party, so are you having a representative in parliament? Because by having a member of parliament, it means that the people behind voted for that person. By the way, it had a bit of a reflection, even if I can come back to your question, it was more fairer to determine that the representation is representing the will of the people, because they could look at the numerical strength, to look at the top political parties which are having representation in parliament. But while I was working in parliament as a principal policy analyst, there was a time where we participated in amending the rules of procedure. And remember, I was under the office of the leader of opposition, and I was interested to defend also this voice which is not also considered as a voice that matters. It is a voice of reason. Whatsoever, it's a voice of reason. And one of, objectively, because I was much more of a policy analyst on technical ground, who not necessarily to favor either a political party, this and that, at least this should now be taken over by those who are competitors for political space. The problem we are having, as I'm with my sister here, Honorable Margaret, we are not having resilient politicians who can stick on a matter. They take it on whether in court, they take it on whether for really activism. We are now lacking activist politicians.
But we're looking at the East African Assembly, which is a broader perspective from national politics. We are looking at regional politics.
I agree with you. There's a point I was driving to. What would have worked for us is what I wanted to drive to. What would have worked for us that we proposed in the proposed amendment, which was not taken over, because you know politics is indeed is at times funny. The winner takes it all. I mean, the majority takes it all. And even if the minority who have good reason, voice of reason, they are rejected. So our option would have been, which could match with other country representation who were sending also the nine members of parliament. At certain time, in the courts here in Kenya and in Rwanda, they opposed a certain kind of marginalization, and through their courts and even the EAC, the court of the East African Court of Justice, they said no, this was not a good procedure and process which was undertaken. Even ours here can easily be challenged if we had a good, serious political activist in this matter. Because whereas the issue of numerical strength can play for the politics of this country, but it shouldn't manipulate the spirit of the East Africa Legislative Assembly representation and the EAC, which gives a formula.
Okay.
But if there is no voice that rises up and says, no, let us go this direction, it will remain the way it is, and that's why we're having such a kind of representation.
The national structure normally portrays even what we're going to have on the foreign base. Now, we have a national structure that believes that a certain political party ideology is the only ideology that we believe in. And that is why you have the NRM sitting as a caucus. It will decide on the 6, which are the majority, and they would go ahead and represent the government or represent the ideas of the government. So if we want to see change, what you're suggesting, are you suggesting that we should shift away from only having political party ideologists and to go deeper and look at people who can actually front the issues of Uganda?
I'm interested in a fair representation. This fair representation, if the side of the opposition, we have different members of opposition in parliament, different political parties. They allow them, they say, we are portioning you 4 members. We are portioning you 4 members, you elect through your political parties, and maybe through your members of parliament, they constitute an electoral college. Members of parliament of opposition, they elect their 4 members who are vetted through their political parties. And the NRM, respecting the numerical strength, they get 5. And then we have a balance of 9. Of 9. 9. So 4, 5. Because this time around, it is not like as if it is a presidential race. It is a representation of the shades of the people of Uganda, which has the independence that can join in under the other shade.
In the same faith, Doctor. Now, the vote is no longer political party based, but they send all of you to parliament, and the members of parliament have to cast their vote.
That's it.
Now, in that same faith and standard, we have an NRM caucus, which is the predominant force in the parliament, and they will stand on the issues of the caucus. And now you have opposition people who are going to be at the mercy of the other people. Now you have even a political party that has a coalition. Do you believe the ideas you're fronting for the decision makers, they can actually work even for the opposition?
The ideas I'm fronting, they could work for the opposition. The current one is the kangaroo election. If you are not either an ally of NRM, even if they want, because even they could have thrown away total shame and they put there they own NRM, but only that the ES disallows them. If you send and you don't, they can have slander, and they say this slander, they first take him in a certain room, they coach him, please, you are our own, so you have a memorandum with us. And now, like, I sort of talk about an individual, but we use him as a public figure.
Yes.
And that's what happened, because I used to sit with
It is the coalition that actually took
place. So it's the coalition. So NRM has it all. It is a kangaroo that they monitor and decide who goes there. It is not a fair and a free election, where the Ugandan representation is considered. Me, my appeal without either opposition, my appeal objective would have been, let the opposition be given a chance without first going into those called allies and so forth. They say, in the shade of the opposition and independent, let us have this through your caucus, the caucus of the opposition, together with the independents. The independents, let us have either one person or 2. And these people, let them also be in the category. We have the youth, we have the workers, we have the women. And then finally, we look, when they are vetting, they look at the competence, the level of the person they are sending. East Africa legislative representation is not supposed to be a place of seeking for jobs. It's supposed to be people who have seen it and who are saying, no, let us take our country to another level. But at times where politics is becoming funny, every other electoral position is becoming either for a position of rewarding or a position of either earning a living. And that's why for why I didn't go for that competition. I tested it. And it is my appeal to the nation of Uganda, East Africa Legislative Assembly, even by the time they vet a profile, and maybe understanding whether really you hold on the virtues and the values which can represent a country and achieve the dream of East Africa community. I want to let you know, and to the viewers, it can happen to be that when you brought those people and you say, Alani, and tell us about the East African community, they may not tell you about what is under the summit, they may not tell you what is done under the council, they may not tell you even what's about there, maybe even the court, they may not tell you even how maybe even some of the problems that have held us up today. We have never achieved the East African political federation. Okay. And the proposal how it can be solved. And political parties cannot only be the solution of this, it should engage, it becomes a national engagement. My alternative would be, if maybe the ruling party, the ruling government feels that maybe let us have the people who are representing our only party, we subject it to regional decision. I'm talking of let the Western Uganda, you go and compete in Western Uganda, others they are competing in Northern Uganda. They say we want maybe 3 members from Northern Uganda, we want maybe two members from Eastern Uganda, we have others from Central Uganda, and no matter of their political party, but we consider their political shades. Okay. And then finally we have a fair representation, which even if we mean people to participate, we participate. If we can manage a presidential election, not about this. Okay. So that finally you become a member who is representing East Africa from the people, and they know you. What I want to, what is still lacking, and that's why East Africa community ideology is not rooted in the hearts of the people. You elect a member of Parliament East Africa, and he has never gone even to have a gathering of the people to meet anyone within maybe talk of like you are from North, that you've gone from North. Not at all. They come back, they make some few submission of report in the Parliament, but they have not popularized the good idea, by the way, of the East African community, and which should go back to the grassroots, and that is what is lacking in these dynamics.
Honorable Margaret, when you look at the issue of the East African Legislative Assembly and how we send our representation there, and in the predominant system of the multi-party dispensation, where we have a predominant multi-party, we have a predominant party which will send the majority, and we have the other parties that are at the mercy of the predominant party. If we are still living in that system and we are supposed to send representation to the East African Parliament, do you believe we shall get the leaders we deserve in the East African Parliament in the predominant situation we have?
That can't be true. We can't get better leaders. Luansonga. Anti zenjogera Luganda. Luansonga. Political parties betusindika ba ruling party. Strictly ruling. Ba ruling party kubanga beba voting. Bebanji mu East African community kyandibadde kintu kirungi. EALA kyandibadde kintu kirungi nnyo kubanga ne objectives zaakyo nnungi nnyo, buli kimu kirungi nnyo. Naye I think something has to be changed. Tulabe nti wabeerewo at least competence, wabeerewo ekikolebwa nga omuntu ali capable, asobola okukola ekirimu asobola okukola, not nga bwagambye Dr. Rewarding biki ebyo political party biki singa byonna bivaamu. Netudda ku table netugamba let's do it like this. Nga bwabadde agamba oba tukole political parties, oba ya political parties byonna biviiremu ddala tukole competence, tugaye nti this and this and this bakola. Asobola. Then maybe we can achieve much in that.
Doctor, when you look at some of the challenges that have been affecting East Africa as a region, you have the issue of security, you have the issue of the business, the transactions we have. When you look at the trade between Uganda and Kenya has been having faults somewhere. You have the trade of Uganda and Tanzania have been having issues. We had border issues between Uganda and Rwanda. Our business is mostly in DRC, and some of it is agriculture, raw produce, and also we are into construction in Rwanda. We are into South Sudan for security. Now, construction is DRC, not Rwanda. Now, when you look at the East African community, the vision we have for the East African community, do you believe that Uganda has participated enough in achieving the goal of the East African? We are going to look at a federation, but as a community, have we achieved the...
First of all, I want to take this opportunity to join fellow Ugandans and maybe the members of the East African community to congratulate President Museveni, who won to be the chairman of the East African community. That one, whether your opposition, you put it aside, is our chairman. And he is also one of those key historical leaders in the East African community. Since the downfall, people need to remember this. It had declined in the 1990, then it revived in 1999. Then now it took off, as we have had now different assemblies. And all along, the one of the issues that he was looking at to benefit, we were to ensure that there is security was one of the target. Increase the foreign investment, then also to enhance regional industrialization, to have improved regional security, and then also reduce cost of goods due to competitive market. Then standing on the pillars, the customs union, common market, then monetary union, then political federation. So these are part of the yardsticks to measure whether
we are actually moving.
We are moving. And if I was ranking the way I rank back to my classroom, I think we are at 50. And
so far.
Average.
But 50
average,
is actually a big number, Doctor.
The 50 I will qualify it, and then it is subject to scrutiny by the viewers. The 50 I'm talking about is that we've had East Africa is now having countries. I mean, are they not 7?
There are 7 now.
7 countries. It is two countries, that is Southern Sudan and also the DRC, which has insecurity.
Yes.
So the remaining 5 are really are secure. Their peace is secured. So we cannot say that in terms of security that we have scored 0. So we appreciate. We have had where they have had alliances when Tanzania was about to fall into that internal conflict of the elections and the riots, and somehow in either with the personal dealings of like Uganda and Tanzania, they see how they secure that peace. And also we look at the free movement. When I'm going to Rwanda, I've never been a lecturer in Rwanda. You don't need to have the passport.
Yes.
Your national ID is enough. You don't pay. You just fill the other form, the stamp. If you have any business you are going to conduct or a job, you do it. No one is going to question you. So we appreciate for that arrangement. Even right now when you are tired of this work here and you say I want to go to Kenya, you will just go, not to disturb you. Until when maybe there are some gaps. I have to admit there are some gaps which are known. The other time when there was a need of representation, especially where they say it is still a limitation, if like in the law fraternity, if you want to go to represent a client in another country, then you need to first get a certain kind of
temporary practicing certificate.
Yes, such practicing certificate, yet you are already having the one you have. I think those are some of the limitations that should be streamlined. Another one, we need trade, where the country certifying board for trade bureaus, they may not allow your product to be sold in the other country if you don't have the certification or the approval by the other bureau. Yet now that's why we are coming and telling those who are representing us. By the way, those who are representing, they are using taxpayers' money. It is not maybe that money is paid by Tanzania. So when we are speaking through this forum, which you have given us, we take it as an opportunity to deliver a message to those who are representing us and those who may represent us. They need to come faster, not take too much time, and work on these limitations so that people can no longer struggle. If I'm a lawyer in Uganda and maybe we have the East African Bureau of Lawyers, which will now either say the clearance, the certificate you have.
The East African Law Society.
Law Society. It can clear you be a lawyer in Rwanda and anywhere. The other time it was not good when there was a scuffle when this Martha Karua wanted to come and represent his client in Uganda. And now another area which is very much needed to be reflected on the chairman, Mr. Chairman, the president, now that you are the chairman, is to make sure that we don't breach this international law. If you want to go to arrest a person in Kenya, you are supposed to first you appreciate the extradition treaty, extradition treaty, which requires you to first get the permission that is saying that this person has been arrested on this land, then it can easily be transferred through the legal processes. So that the East African Legislative Assembly and the community does not be a platform of abuse of human rights. As a person who is an advocate of good governance, in all ways, we would like to see an East African community which will thrive beyond even the current leaders. We have had leaders before, the likes of Julius Nyerere. Those guys were very good. And they are still remembered to have built a foundation for the East African community.
So, Doctor, you're giving a 50% pass mark.
And I have justified why.
You have justified, and you have showed the loopholes and you have showed the strength.
Yes,
now, when it comes to the representation, do you believe that when members of parliament go to the EALA, actually discuss matters pertaining security, matters pertaining trade, labor exploitation, equal standards, because we had issues of our milk going to Kenya. We had issues of the maize infratoxin, and they were saying that our maize, how we dry our maize, it's not up to standard. Now, when we are talking about having the equal standards, you have UNBS here. You have also a regulatory body in Kenya.
So we can have now the one of East Africa, which now this one they act as branch.
Yes.
If I'm certified in Uganda, it means I'm certified to go to Tanzania, to go to DRC, to go to everywhere.
But all this needs, first of all, it needs regulation, and that regulations come from the East African Parliament.
That's right.
Now, when we are talking about the issue of the assembly itself, do you believe it is an avenue? Have countries used this avenue to talk about issues about the community, or it has been lacking in its representation?
That's why when you did very well to give us a platform, me and my sister, to talk about the foundation of how it began. You cannot sow maize, I'm using a parable, and you are expecting to harvest mangoes. So the beginning of the matter is what determines. You are not supposed to be taking to East African community because of either some puppets who only are believing that when I'm going to legislate, I will first call Uganda. You are supposed to take up guys, ladies and gentlemen, nationals who are intelligent and who are well built up in their intellectual capacity and also in their nationalistic principles. So that when you go, you are representing Uganda, you are no longer presenting NRM. And this is something, if I met these members who are representing us in East Africa community, especially in East Africa Legislative Assembly, especially members of NRM, I don't have any issue with you. But you need to be lectured that when you are representing Uganda, you are not representing NRM. You are presenting a country which will live beyond NRM, and which is looking, if we talk about peace, we are real for peace. And we don't do what we call double standards. That completely dilutes the spirit of East African community, which is supposed even to be building the very ideology which they talk of Pan-Africans.
Okay.
You cannot have Pan-Africans who are still sectarian. And you are sectarian in terms of your political party. You are sectarian in terms of who favors you and who... That cannot be Pan-Africanism.
Okay. Honorable Margaret, when you look at the representation, not for only Uganda, but the wider representation of member states of the East African community, and the qualifications they look at, is it one of the challenges we are facing, that the ineffectiveness of the East African Legislative Assembly is dependent on who we send there to discuss matters of the region?
This East African thing is very good. But we have not come to the realization nti kintu ky'amaanyi kya mugaso kyetaagibwa ate nga kirungi. Bwe tunaatuuka kiseera ne tumanya nti ekintu kino kirungi, twandikikozesa ne tujjamu ekyamakulu. Kakati politics eza Uganda, waliwo to some extent nti ziri transactional. To some, I've not said it.
Za sente eranga kufuka member wa EALA nzo mbuli byogere osooka kusasula sente wali ku parliament
to some extent.
Era nawe simbyeko kati betegese.
To some extent, really transaction tetu bya sente nga bwogambye. Tetutwalayo ekituufu lwansonga bwe bibaamu sente oba tosobola kudeliveringa n'obuyagala otya oba tosobola lwansonga oba onoonya kuzaawo zino z'okozesezza oba onoonya kukola ki oba naawe kenyini onoonya sente mubaamu omulululu awo.
Nze nafuna obulabiri mu busatu singa kwali ku voting merit nasinkana abamemba parliament mu corridor za parliament ogamba musajja gwe gobadde osaanidde kutukiikirira.
That's what they do.
Naye sente nolaba political party.
So, Honorable, when we are looking at the issue of representation and the issue of service delivery, we normally look at expertise. We normally look at the strength of lobbying. When it comes to issues of parliament, you wanted to represent the people there, so you know what it means when you go to the house. Every house is similar. Lobbying is the issue. Do you believe that the representation of Uganda, the representatives we take, can actually lobby for a better regional cooperation on behalf of the country?
I don't know. That one I don't know. Because people go to those parliaments with some reasons. Babeerawo n'ensonga kino kye kyantwalayo singa si kino n'omuntu ye yannyamba ono olabira ddala nti it's high time we change it. It's high time tukyuseemu and we do the right thing.
Okay, Doctor, the presentation we send, does it actually give us a basis of what we're going to receive as a country?
Okay, leaving now all other gaps I've cited, it takes us back to the team leader. If we are having 9 members of parliament, maybe with time we should be able to know that they have a caucus, which they meet, and here we have a ministry, a fully-fledged ministry, deputy prime minister in charge for East African affairs. And we align the national objectives, and then we connect them to what is there. Because the truth of the matter, even if I was the one to go there, I cannot go alone with my own ideas. Yes. These are issues of governance. And you align, you know whether you are from either independent, whether you are from either in a political party, then you know, let's leave all those things aside. This is what we are standing for the country. And so long as now we are going a team, this is what we are going to support. So if we take that part apart from the other criticism and we use it the way it is, it will make sense. And whatever there are always to take over there, it is important that our National Assembly debates and say, this is what we have agreed as a country to take to East African community. Among of which are pending that are not resolved. One, it is this common currency. It has taken many years. We are having people here, we talk about the issue of money laundering, we are talking about the issue of the effect of currency exchange, and which always lowers our currency, the depreciation, and also the easy transaction. Because when we talk about economic growth, these are macroeconomic policies. They cannot exonerate the exchange of currency. Even if you say now we are for economic growth, but you find that our shilling is always competing less in the Kenyan shilling, and then it goes to Rwanda, it's a bit balanced, then to go to Tanzania, then to get some shock, then we go to DRC, you begin to struggle. It affects business flow very much, and as well investment. Yes. So now, I remember the second deputy prime minister, the right honorable, the Kadaga, yes, Rebecca. She was saying, no, we are now point on, we have already decided how this should be. But you ask yourself where now I take it back to those who are viewers and those who are stakeholders, why has the common currency delayed? We are counting many years down the road. Why is the political federation failing? And part of the questions we know, you are talking of how we should have respect of human rights, good governance which is respected by democracy. Okay. Do we have a platform that is a checkpoint for each country's practice and or exercisation of human rights and maybe democratic elections? Or when we go for elections, every country go on its way. And they don't be concerned to say, has Uganda had a total peaceful election, respect of human rights? Do we have term limits if there are other countries that are talking about term limits? How will the political federation be when one of the countries is believing that you can have many terms, and others they believe that you can have two terms or three terms? You're
raising an issue of uniformity when it comes
to this
yes. Which is very good. Now, I want to have my last two questions, but this is the second last. If we're having challenges internally, do you believe we can have a consensus when it comes to East African community?
The issue is that we are talking of the bottom line. You know, it takes us back like how we have clans, and then finally you have a family. There are issues you agree as a clan. Then the issues you agree as a family, you are a nuclear family. So the issues of the clan which are to give you peace, to give you development, you say, this is how we behave as a clan, and then you go forward. Then the issue of the individual nuclear family, which now I call it Uganda, there are issues we say, oh, Uganda, we believe it this way. It is how we are politically nurtured and economically. But those issues which are streamlined by the EAC and which serve the common objective for all, we say, all of us, this is the standard. In terms of governance, in terms of how we can have a living, like you talk about the wage bill, we say, anywhere you go to work in East Africa, you cannot earn below 400,000.
Okay, Doctor. Now, my last question is, has the East African Parliament actually benefited the people of East Africa and Uganda particularly?
Uganda has benefited maybe 60%. But part of the failure to benefit in everything is because of these gaps I'm talking about.
Okay.
But we have benefited, but we need to be realistic and then walk the talk.
Okay, Doctor. Honorable, my question is, has Uganda benefited from the East African Legislative Assembly?
To some extent, we are moving.
Okay. Ade batulaba ku DreamTV, ku Doxa TV na ade batuuza ku Impact FM tubebaza otambula naffe tusinkana olunaku olw'enkya musule bulungi mweraba.
Oh, talk show.